I woke up at 4 every morning for 22 years. I packed 5 lunch boxes before the sun came up. I ironed 5 school uniforms with hands that were already tired from the day before. I never once asked anyone for help. Not my neighbors, not my relatives, not even God. I only thanked him. And then, one by one, I watched every single one of my children walk out of that house and build a life on the other side of the world. And I told myself I was happy for them. I told myself that for 4 years. Until the day I was lying alone on the floor of my own kitchen, too weak to get up. And I realized that no one in the world knew I was there. I did not call anyone. That is the thing people might expect. A mother who raised 5 children alone would call them the moment something went wrong. But I did not call. I lay there on that cold floor, staring at the ceiling of the kitchen where I had cooked 10,000 meals. And I felt something I had never allowed myself to feel in 68 years of living. I felt completely, entirely, without any question, alone. What happened next changed something inside me that I had kept locked for a very long time. My name is Savitri. I am 68 years old. I was born and raised in Lucknow, and I have lived in the same house in the same lane for 41 years. This is the story of what I taught my children, what I forgot to teach myself, and what a neighbor helped me understand on a Tuesday afternoon when I had nothing left. You need to understand who I was before any of this. You need to understand what kind of woman I was at 26 when my life changed in one moment on a road in Lucknow. I was not a complicated woman. I did not have grand ambitions. I had a husband named Ramesh, a small house with a courtyard, and more love in my heart than I knew what to do with. Ramesh was a good man, not a rich man, not a powerful man, but the kind of man who came home every evening and asked how your day was and actually listened to the answer. We had been married for 3 years. Our oldest, Priya, was 2 years old. I was expecting our second child. Then one evening in October, Ramesh was coming home on his bicycle from work. A truck came from the wrong side of the road. He did not see it in time. He survived. I want to be clear about that. He survived, but the accident left him unable to walk without support, and the pain in his spine never fully went away. He could sit. He could talk. He could hold the children and tell them stories and make them laugh. But the work he had been doing, manual work, physical work, that was finished. I did not collapse. I did not sit in a corner and mourn the life we had planned. I looked at Ramesh in that hospital bed, and I looked at Priya sitting on the floor outside the ward eating a biscuit, and I made a decision so quietly that I did not even say it out loud. I would handle it. There was a garment factory 4 kilometers from our house. I had heard they were looking for women to do cutting work, measuring fabric, following patterns, trimming edges. I had never done this work in my life. I went there the next Monday morning. I told them I was a fast learner. They gave me a trial. By the end of the week, they gave me a position. I was 26 years old, 4 months pregnant with my second child. And I had become the person who kept our family alive. Rohan was born in February. Then came Karen, then Adifir, then Neha, 5 children in 11 years. Every one of them born into the same small house, the same courtyard, the same lane in Lucknow, where the neighbor's Jasmine climbed the wall every summer. Ramesh sat in the courtyard in his chair and watched the children play. He helped with homework when he could. He was present in the way that matters, with attention, with patience, with love. But the factory was mine. The money was mine. The 4 o'clock mornings were mine. I want to tell you what those mornings were like because I do not think anyone who has not done this kind of work can fully picture it. I woke before the call to prayer. I made tea, 1 cup, fast, standing at the stove. I packed 5 lunch boxes. In the early years when we had very little, the lunch boxes had roti and a little dal, and I made sure each child's was the same, so no one felt they had less than the others. I ironed the uniforms. I woke the children. I fed them. I walked them to the corner where the school van came. Then I walked 4 kilometers to the factory. At the factory, I stood for 8 hours. My hands moved all day, cutting, measuring, trimming. The sound of scissors and sewing machines became the sound of my life. I knew every woman in that factory. I knew their children's names, their husbands' problems, their worries about rent. We talked while we worked the way women talk, in the spaces between tasks, in a low, continuous thread that ran beneath the noise of the machines. I came home at 6. I cooked. I helped with homework. I bathed the younger ones. I checked that the older ones had finished their studies. I sat with Ramesh for half an hour in the evening. That was our time, the only time, and I protected it the way you protect something you know is precious and limited. Then I slept. Then I woke at 4 and did it again. I never told the children we were poor. I want to be very clear about this. I never used that word in my house. When Priya needed books for school, I bought them. When Rohan wanted to join the cricket club, I found the money. When there was a school trip, I made sure each child could go. I moved things around. I went without things myself. I found ways, but I never let any of them sit with the feeling that we could not manage. What I gave them, instead of that feeling, was something else. I told them stories at night, not fairy tales, not made-up stories, but stories about people who had started with nothing and built something real. I told them about people who had left small places and gone to bigger ones and found that the world was larger and more possible than anyone in their lane had told them. I told them, "You will go far." I said it the way you say something you believe, completely. I said it so often and so calmly that they believed it too. That is what I gave my children in place of money. I gave them certainty, the certainty that they were capable of more than where they had been born. I did not know then what that certainty would cost me later. The children grew up the way children do when they are loved and pushed in equal measure. Seriously, they were good students, all 5 of them. And because they had watched me work their entire lives, they understood without being told that nothing comes without effort. By the time Priya was 14, she was giving tuition to younger children in the neighborhood, 2 hours every evening, 200 rupees a week. She handed every rupee to me. I gave it back to her and said, "Keep it for your studies." She looked at me when I said that. She said, "You do not need to do that." I said, "I know I do not need to. I want to." That is the difference between need and want that I tried to teach all 5 of them. You do things not because you must, but because you choose to. That choice is what makes you free. I did not know yet that I had forgotten to apply that lesson to myself. Priya was 24 when she first said the word Dubai. She said it at dinner, just like that. in the middle of a conversation about something else. She said a friend of hers from university had gone to Dubai the previous year and was working in a hotel there. Good salary, clean city, opportunities that simply did not exist here, in this lane, in this city, at this time. I kept eating. I did not look up immediately. I had known, somewhere below the surface of every day, that this moment was coming. I had spent years telling my children the world was large. I could not now be surprised when one of them wanted to go see it. I looked at Priya. She was watching me carefully, the way children watch a parent when they are about to ask for something they are not sure will be allowed. I said, "Tell me more about this friend." That was the beginning. Priya had saved money, her tuition earnings from years ago, money she had put away carefully from her college stipend. Small amounts added over time. She had already looked into the visa process. She had already written to her friend. She had done all of this before saying a word to me, which told me everything about how seriously she had thought about it. Ramesh was listening from his chair, near the window. He caught my eye. He gave me the smallest nod. That night, after the children were asleep, I sat in the courtyard alone. The jasmine on the neighbor's wall was flowering. The lane was quiet. I sat there for a long time, not thinking exactly, more feeling my way through something. I had told my children they would fly high. Priya was ready to fly. What kind of mother clips the wings she herself grew? I gave her my blessing the next morning. I said it simply, the way I said most important things. I said, "Go, work hard, call me when you land." She hugged me so tightly I could feel her heart beating fast with excitement. She was not thinking about leaving me. She was thinking about arriving somewhere. I understood that completely. I had raised her to think that way. That night, after everyone was asleep, I took out the small diary I had kept since Priya was born. It was an ordinary diary, brown cover, thin pages, bought from a stationery shop near the factory for 12 rupees. I had used it over the years to write small things, not grand thoughts, just small records of moments. Priya's first step, 14 months. Rohan's first word, he said, "Water," and then looked very proud of himself. Karen's first day of school, cried for 10 minutes, then walked in without looking back. That night, I opened to a new page. I wrote, "Today my daughter is going to fly. I am afraid, but I will smile when she goes. That is what I do." I closed the diary. I put it back in the cupboard. I did not know then that I would open it again many years later in very different circumstances, and that those words would mean something completely different to me by then. Priya left on a Thursday in March. She took one large suitcase and a bag with her documents. I packed her food for the journey. Parathas wrapped in foil, some dry snacks, a small container of pickle. She laughed and said the flight had food. I said take it anyway. At the door, she turned back once. I was standing in the courtyard. I was smiling. She waved and walked down the lane. I went inside and stood in her room for a few minutes. Her bed was made. Her books were still on the shelf. The room smelled of her, of the particular soap she used, and something else, something that was just her. Then I went to the kitchen and started cooking for the evening meal. That is what I did. That is what I always did. 3 months later, Priya's first salary arrived. She sent half of it home. I remember the day Rohan came running from the bank. He was the one who managed the account by then, and said a number out loud that made the whole room go quiet for a moment. That evening I bought fruit, mangoes, guavas, a bunch of grapes. I put them in a bowl in the center of the table. The children stood around looking at them like they were something rare. Karen took a grape and ate it very slowly, like he was trying to make it last. Adifir said, "Is this from Priya's money?" I said, "Yes." He said, "She did it." Not as a question, as a fact. I did it too, I thought, but I did not say it out loud. After that, things changed in small ways and then in larger ways. Priya sent money every month. After 1 year, Rohan went to Dubai too, a different company, different work, but the same city. Then Karen, then Adifir, then Neha, the youngest, who was 21 when she left and cried the entire way to the airport. I stood at the door and smiled each time. I waved each time. I went back to the kitchen each time. Ramesh passed away quietly on a Tuesday morning, 4 months after Neha left. He had been declining slowly, the way old injuries sometimes do in old age. He went in his sleep. I found him when I brought his morning tea. I sat beside him for a while. I held his hand. It was still warm. I did not call the children immediately. I sat with him for 1 hour first. I talked to him the way I had talked to him our whole lives, quietly, without needing him to answer. I told him the children were doing well. I told him Priya had been promoted. I told him Neha had found good friends in Dubai. I told him I was fine. Then I called Priya. They all came back for the funeral. All 5 of them. In that house for 10 days. The house was full again. Their voices, their footsteps, the sound of them talking over each other the way they always had. I cooked for all of them. I sat with them in the evenings. For 10 days, it felt like the house had come back to life. Then they left, one by one, back to Dubai, back to their lives, back to the world I had sent them out to build. And the house went quiet in a way it had never been quiet before. Not the quiet of nighttime, not the quiet after the children slept. This was a different quiet, a quiet with no end coming. I did not know yet how loud that quiet could become. The first year after Ramesh died, and the children were all gone, I managed. That is the honest word. I managed. The money came every month, more than enough for my needs. My neighbor Kamla checked on me regularly. I went to the temple on Tuesdays. I kept the house clean. I cooked proper meals, even though it was only me eating them, because cooking poorly for yourself felt like giving up on yourself. And I had not survived 22 years of 4 o'clock mornings to give up now. But something was shifting underneath all of it. I could feel it the way you feel a change in weather before it comes. The children called. At first, every few days. Then once a week. Then whenever they could, which became less and less frequent as their lives filled up and expanded. Priya got married to a man she had met in Dubai, a Punjabi engineer, a good man, she said. I had not met him in person yet. Rohan got married too. Then Karen, Adifir, Neha. Grandchildren began to arrive. Priya's son, born in Dubai. Rohan's daughter. Karen's twins. Each birth announced by a photograph on the phone. Small new faces I had never touched, names I said out loud in my empty house just to hear them spoken. When the grandchildren called me on video, I held the phone with both hands and looked at their faces on the screen and felt something I cannot describe very well. It was love, completely, certainly love. But underneath the love, there was something else. A distance that no phone screen could close. I had held all 5 of my children the day they were born. I had held them when they cried, and when they were sick, and when they were frightened. I had been there for every first step, every first word, every first day of school. I had written all of it in the diary. These grandchildren, I was watching them grow up through a screen. I was missing every first. I did not say any of this to the children. Instead, I started saying other things. When Priya called and her husband could be heard in the background, I said something sharp about how she never had time for me anymore. When Rohan came to visit with his wife and children for 5 days, I spent half the visit telling his wife, not unkindly but not gently either, how Rohan liked his food prepared, how he liked his shirts folded, as if she did not know her own husband. I could see on Rohan's face a look I did not recognize at the time, a careful, controlled look, the look of a man trying to manage a situation without making it worse. I told myself I was just speaking the truth. I told myself I was just being honest. I had spent a lifetime being honest. Why should I stop now? What I did not understand, what I was not able to see from inside the feeling, was that my honesty had become a weapon I was turning on the people I loved most. Every sharp word was the loneliness speaking. Every criticism of a daughter-in-law was a way of saying, "You took my son to another country, and now I am sitting here alone." But I did not say that. I said smaller, meaner things instead. The visits became shorter, then less frequent. Priya still called, but the calls had a careful quality to them. She was always half watching for the moment when I would say something that would make the call difficult. Rohan called less. Karen sent money faithfully every month and wrote short messages, but did not call much. Adifir called on birthdays. Neha, my youngest, who had cried all the way to the airport. Even she had gone quiet. The money kept coming. The concern kept coming, at a distance. But the presence, the physical, warm, breathing presence of people who loved me, that had slowly, quietly, almost without my noticing, stopped coming. And I told myself it was their fault. I told myself I had given everything and been abandoned. I had worked in that factory for 22 years. I had packed those lunch boxes. I had ironed those uniforms. I had smiled when every one of them walked out of my door. And now they were living their lives in a gleaming city by the sea. And I was sitting in this house where every room held a memory and not a single one held a person. I made myself into a victim so completely and so convincingly that I believed it entirely. I did not know yet that I was wrong. It was a Tuesday in January when I fell. Not dramatically. I want to be clear about that. I did not have a medical emergency. I was in the kitchen, reaching for something on the lower shelf near the stove, and my knee gave way the way old knees sometimes do, and I went down slowly and sat on the floor. I was not hurt. Nothing was broken, but I could not get up. I tried 3 times. My arms were not strong enough to push me up from the floor, and my knee was protesting, and the angle was wrong. I sat there on the cold kitchen floor and looked at the stove above me and the window and the ceiling, and I understood very clearly that if I had fallen differently, if I had hit my head, if something had broken, no one would have known for a long time. No one had a key to my house. Kamala next door checked on me, but not every day. She had her own life, her own family. The children called, but not reliably enough. I could lie on this floor for 2 days before anyone noticed something was wrong. I thought about that. I sat with it completely, without flinching, the way you have to sit with things that are very true and very uncomfortable. I did not cry. I had not cried in a very long time. I had forgotten how, I think, or I had decided somewhere along the way that crying was a luxury I could not afford, and had never gone back to reconsider that decision. I sat on the floor for 40 minutes. Then Kamala knocked on the door. She knocked and then tried the handle. And when it opened, I never locked the door during the day. She came in and found me on the kitchen floor. She said my name. She came quickly and knelt beside me and put her hand on my arm and said, "What happened? How long have you been here?" I opened my mouth to say I was fine. That was my answer to everything. I am fine. It is nothing. Do not worry. What came out instead was a sound I did not recognize as my own voice at first. And then I was crying, sitting on my kitchen floor at 68 years old, crying in front of my neighbor, which I had never done in front of anyone in my entire adult life. Once I started, I could not stop. It was not polite crying. It was the kind of crying that has been stored for a long time and comes out with considerable force. Kamala did not try to stop it. She put her arm around my shoulders and she let me cry. And she did not say anything until the worst of it had passed. When I finally quieted, she helped me up slowly. She sat me in the chair in the kitchen, Ramesh's chair, the one that had been in the same spot for 30 years. She made tea. She put it in front of me. Then she sat across from me and said, "Tell me." And I told her everything, the loneliness, the anger, the grandchildren's faces on the screen, the way the house sounded at night now, the fear I had been carrying since the kitchen floor, the fear of dying alone in a room where no one would find me for days. And then I said the things I had been saying to myself for 2 years, that my children had abandoned me, that they had taken everything I gave them and gone, that I had sacrificed my whole life, and this was what I received in return. Kamala listened to all of it. She did not interrupt. When I finished, she was quiet for a moment, the way a person is quiet when they are choosing their words carefully because what they say next matters. Then she said, "Savitri, can I tell you something? And will you hear it without getting angry?" I said, "Yes." She said, "Rohan called me 3 days ago." I looked at her. She said, "He calls me sometimes. When you do not pick up his calls. When he is worried. He asked me to check on you when I could." She paused. "He has been calling me for 8 months." I said nothing. She said, "Your son, the one you told me you were most angry with, the one who calls the least, he is the one who has been making sure someone looks after you. He did not tell you because he did not want you to feel like you needed looking after." I sat with that for a very long time. Then Kamla said, more gently, "Your children love you. I see it every time they come. But when they come, you make it very hard for them to show it. You are in so much pain that you turn the pain outward. And they go back to Dubai feeling like they failed you, no matter what they do." I started to say something. She held up her hand, not unkindly. She said, "You taught them to fly. You said it yourself many times. I heard you say it to Priya when she was small. You said, 'One day you will fly high.' And they did. They flew exactly as high as you told them they could." She looked at me steadily. "You cannot teach someone to fly and then be angry when they leave the ground." I looked at my hands. These hands that had cut fabric for 22 years, that had packed 5 lunchboxes, that had held 5 newborn children and 5 small faces and 5 school bags and 5 boarding passes at 5 different airport departures. I had given my children wings, and I had sat down in an empty house and called it abandonment. That was not what it was. That night, I could not sleep. I lay in the dark, and I let myself look at the truth the way I had always looked at difficult things, directly, without turning away. My children had not left me. I had sent them. I had prepared them, pushed them, believed in them. And when they went exactly as far as I had aimed them. The loneliness was real. The pain was real. But the story I had been telling myself, that they had chosen to leave me, that they did not care, that I had been abandoned after everything I gave, that story was not true. I had stopped letting them love me. I had turned every visit into a complaint, every call into a conflict. I had made loving me feel like a punishment. And then I had wondered why people came less often. I got up at 2 in the morning. I went to the cupboard. I took out the old brown diary. I opened it to the first page. Priya's first step, 14 months. Rohan's first word, water. I turned the pages slowly. Karen's first day of school. Adifir learning to ride a bicycle on the lane outside. Neha's first performance at school. She sang a song and forgot the words halfway and looked at me in the audience. And I mouthed the words to her from my seat, near the back of the diary. I found the page I had written the night before Priya left for Dubai. Today my daughter is going to fly. I am afraid, but I will smile when she goes. That is what I do. I read it 3 times. I had been afraid then too. I had been afraid every time one of them left. I had smiled and waved and gone back to the kitchen because that was what I did. I managed, I continued. I did not allow myself to fall apart. But somewhere in those years of managing, I had stopped doing the other thing. I had stopped telling them. I had stopped saying, "I am afraid. I am lonely. I miss you. I need you to come more often. I need to know you. Remember me." I had kept performing the smile and never told anyone what was underneath it. I closed the diary. I held it in my lap for a while. Then I made a decision, not a grand dramatic decision, just a quiet one, the way I made all my decisions. In the morning, I would call Rohan. I called him at 7. He answered on the second ring, which told me he had been awake. I said, "I know you have been calling Kamla." A pause. Then, "Are you angry?" I said, "No." And I meant it. I said, I want to come to Dubai. Another pause, longer this time. Then I heard something in his breath that might have been relief, or might have been the sound of something loosening that had been held tight for a long time. He said, "When?" I said, "As soon as you can arrange it." He said, "Give me 2 weeks." It took 10 days. All 5 of them knew within an hour of my call to Rohan. I could tell because Priya called me that same afternoon, and her voice was different from how it had been in months. Lighter. She asked what I wanted to eat when I arrived. She said her son, my grandson, 3 years old, whom I had only ever seen on a screen, had been told his grandmother was coming, and had asked if grandmothers were big or small. I laughed. I had not laughed on the phone with Priya in a long time. I said, "Tell him she is not very big, but she takes up a lot of space." Priya laughed too, and in that laugh was something that had been missing from our calls for 2 years, the ease of 2 people who love each other and are not afraid of each other. I packed carefully. I did not take everything. I was not leaving the house forever. I would go and come back and go again. That was the new arrangement I had decided on during that long night with the diary. I would not choose between the house and my children. I would move between them, like someone who has more than one home. I took the diary. The flight from Lucknow to Dubai is 4 hours and 20 minutes. I had never been on an airplane before. I did not tell anyone this. I sat in my window seat and I looked out at the ground below as we lifted. And I watched Lucknow become small, the lanes, the rooftops, the river glinting in the distance, and then disappear into cloud. I held the diary in my lap. I thought about the 22 years in the factory, the 4 o'clock mornings, the 5 lunch boxes, the 5 faces at 5 departures. I thought about Ramesh in his chair in the courtyard, watching the children play. I thought about the kitchen floor on a Tuesday in January. I thought about what Kamla had said. "You taught them to fly." Yes, I had. And they had flown to a city of light beside the sea and built lives there and had children of their own and were waiting right now at an airport to receive me. I had taught them to fly. It was time I stopped sitting on the ground. When I came through the arrivals gate, they were all there, all 5 of them. Priya had a small handwritten sign, the kind you see people hold for strangers, except she had written on it in Hindi, "Our mother." Rohan was standing beside her. And when he saw my face, he looked away for a moment, the way men do when they do not want you to see that they are affected. My grandson, Priya's son, 3 years old, looked at me very seriously from behind his mother's leg. Then he asked in English with a small Dubai accent that made my heart do something complicated, "Are you the grandmother?" I crouched down, so I was level with him. I said, "Yes, I am the grandmother. Are you the grandson?" He thought about this. Then he nodded very officially, as if we had confirmed an important agreement. I had been afraid of this city, this distance, this unfamiliar life my children had made. I had been afraid for so long that the fear had turned into something uglier, into bitterness, into blame, into a sharpness that had kept people away. The fear was still there, underneath everything. That is honest. I was 68 years old, and I had never lived anywhere but Lucknow. And I was standing in an airport in a country I did not know, but standing in front of me were 5 people I had raised from nothing with my own hands, without help for 22 years. And they were looking at me the way children look at a mother they love, which is different from any other look in the world. I straightened up. I took my grandson's hand. He let me take it without pulling away, which felt like the greatest gift anyone had given me in years. I said, "Let us go." There is a diary in my bag right now as I tell you this. Brown cover, thin pages, bought from a stationery shop in Lucknow for 12 rupees, 40 years ago. Most of the pages are full. The handwriting changes across the years. Faster in the early pages, slower now, more careful. Last week I opened it to a new page. My grandson was sitting beside me on the couch. He was eating a biscuit and watching something on his tablet and occasionally looking at me to make sure I was still there. I wrote, "Today he sat beside me for 2 hours without being asked. He just wanted to be near me. I did not know that was still possible. I have been in Dubai for 7 months now. I go back to Lucknow sometimes. 2 weeks, 3 weeks to sit in the house and be with its memories. Then I come back here, to this city, to these people. It is not a perfect life. Old habits take time to change. And sometimes I say something sharper than I should. And sometimes the distance between what I feel and what I know how to say is still too large. But I am trying in a way I was not trying before. Here is what I know now, at 68, after everything. Children do not always leave because they do not love you. Sometimes they leave because you taught them to. And if you taught them well, if you gave them real wings and real courage and a real belief that the world was larger than the lane they grew up in, then you should not be surprised when they fly far. The mistake I made was not letting them go. I had to let them go. The mistake was stopping there, sending them out, and then sitting down and waiting to be thanked for it. Love does not work that way. Love has to keep moving. You have to keep moving with it. If you are a parent watching this, if you have children far away, if the calls have become less frequent, if the visits feel short and careful, I am not here to tell you that you are doing something wrong. I am here to say, look honestly. Ask yourself what you are bringing to those calls. Ask yourself whether the people who love you are staying away because they do not care or because loving you has become painful. That is a hard question. I know. It nearly broke me to ask it, but the answer, when I finally found it, gave me back my children and my grandchildren and something I had not had in a very long time. A reason to keep the diary going. If this story found you somewhere you recognized, I would like to know. Leave a comment. Tell me yours. And if you want to hear more stories like this, real, honest, human stories, then stay with us. There are many more people in this world with something true to say.